Prepare for the AZ-900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals exam with this free practice test. What's covered in this video? Exam topics you should know before test. Question 1. This question requires that you evaluate the underlined text to determine if it is correct. When you are implementing a software as a service, SaaS, solution, you are responsible for configuring high availability. Instructions. Review the underlined text. If it makes the statement correct, select "No change is needed." If the statement is incorrect, select the answer choice that makes the statement correct. A. No change is needed. B. Defining scalability rules. C. Installing the SaaS solution. D. Configuring the SaaS solution. Answer: D. Question 2. You have an on-premises network that contains several servers. You plan to migrate all the servers to Azure. You need to recommend a solution to ensure that some of the servers are available if a single Azure data center goes offline for an extended period. What should you include in the recommendation? A. Fault tolerance. B. Elasticity. C. Scalability. D. Low latency. Answer: A. Question 3. What are two characteristics of the public cloud? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Note: each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Dedicated hardware. B. Unsecured connections. C. Limited storage. D. Metered pricing. E. Self-service management. Answer: D. E. Question 4. This question requires that you evaluate the underlined text to determine if it is correct. When planning to migrate a public website to Azure, you must plan to pay monthly usage costs. Instructions. Review the underlined text. If it makes the statement correct, select "No change is needed." If the statement is incorrect, select the answer choice that makes the statement correct. A. No change is needed. B. Deploy a VPN. C. Pay to transfer all the website data to Azure. D. Reduce the number of connections to the website. Answer: A. Question 5. You have an Azure environment that contains 10 virtual networks and 100 virtual machines. You need to limit the amount of inbound traffic to all the Azure virtual networks. What should you create? A. One Network Security Group, ASG. B. 10 Virtual Network Gateways. C. 10 Azure Express Route Circuits. D. 1 Azure Firewall. Answer: D. Question 6. You plan to map a network drive from several computers that run Windows 10 to Azure storage. You need to create a storage solution in Azure for the planned mapped drive. What should you create? A. An Azure SQL database. B. A virtual machine data disk. C. A file service in a storage account. D. A blob service in a storage account. Answer: C. Question 7. Your company plans to deploy an artificial intelligence (AI) solution in Azure. What should the company use to build, test, and deploy predictive analytics solutions? A. Azure Logic Apps. B. Azure Machine Learning Designer. C. Azure Batch. D. Azure Cosmos DB. Answer: B. Question 8. This question requires that you evaluate the bold text to determine if it is correct. Azure policies provide a common platform for deploying objects to a cloud infrastructure and for implementing consistency across the Azure environment. Instructions. Review the underlined text. If it makes the statement correct, select "No change is needed." If the statement is incorrect, select the answer choice that makes the statement correct. A. No change is needed. B. Resource groups provide. C. Azure Resource Manager provides. D. Management groups provide. Answer: C. Question 9. Your company has several business units. Each business unit requires 20 different Azure resources for daily operation. All the business units require the same type of Azure resources. You need to recommend a solution to automate the creation of the Azure resources. What should you include in the recommendations? A. Azure Resource Manager templates. B. Virtual machine scale sets. C. The Azure API Management Service. D. Management groups. Answer: A. Question 10. Which Azure service should you use to correlate events from multiple resources into a centralized repository? A. Azure Event Hubs. B. Azure Analysis Services. C. Azure Monitor. D. Azure Log Analytics. Answer: A. Question 11. Which two types of customers are eligible to use Azure Government to develop a cloud solution? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Note: each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. A Canadian government contractor. B. A European government contractor. C. A United States government entity. D. A United States government contractor. E. A European government entity. Answer: CD. Question 12. You need to ensure that when Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, users connect to Azure AD from the Internet by using an anonymous IP address, the users are prompted automatically to change their password. Which Azure service should you use? A. Azure AD Connect Health. B. Azure AD Privileged Identity Management. C. Azure Advanced Threat Protection, ATP. D. Azure AD Identity Protection. Answer: D. Question 13. Your company plans to deploy several web servers and several database servers to Azure. You need to recommend an Azure solution to limit the types of connections from the web servers to the database servers. What should you include in the recommendation? A. Network Security Groups, NSGs. B. Azure Service Bus. C. A Local Network Gateway. D. A Route Filter. Answer: A. Question 14. To what should an application connect to retrieve security tokens? A. An Azure storage account. B. Azure Active Directory, Azure AD. C. A certificate store. D. An Azure Key Vault. Answer: B. Question 15. This question requires that you evaluate the underlined text to determine if it is correct. Resource groups provide organizations with the ability to manage the compliance of Azure resources across multiple subscriptions. Instructions. Review the underlined text. If it makes the statement correct, select "No change is needed." If the statement is incorrect, select the answer choice that makes the statement correct. A. No change is needed. B. Management groups. C. Azure policies. D. Azure App Service Plans. Answer: C. Question 16. Your network contains an Active Directory forest. The forest contains 5,000 user accounts. Your company plans to migrate all network resources to Azure and to decommission the on-premises data center. You need to recommend a solution to minimize the impact on users after the planned migration. What should you recommend? A. Implement Azure Multi-Factor Authentication, MFA. B. Sync all the Active Directory user accounts to Azure Active Directory, Azure AD. C. Instruct all users to change their password. D. Create a guest user account in Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, for each user. Answer: B. Question 17. What is required to use Azure Cost Management? A. A dev, test subscription. B. Software assurance. C. An enterprise agreement, EA. D. A pay-as-you-go subscription. Answer: C. Question 18. This question requires that you evaluate the underlined text to determine if it is correct. Your Azure trial account expired last week. You are now unable to create additional Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, user accounts. Instructions. Review the underlined text. If it makes the statement correct, select No change is needed. If the statement is incorrect, select the answer choice that makes the statement correct. A. No change is needed. B. Start an existing Azure virtual machine. C. Access your data stored in Azure. D. Access the Azure portal. Answer. B. Question 19. This question requires that you evaluate the underlined text to determine if it is correct. Azure policies provide a common platform for deploying objects to a cloud infrastructure and for implementing consistency across the Azure environment. Instructions. Review the undefined text. If it makes the statement correct, select No change is needed. If the statement is incorrect, select the answer choice that makes the statement correct. A. No change is needed. B. Resource groups provide. C. Azure Resource Manager provides. D. Management groups provide. Answer. C. Question 20. A team of developers at your company plans to deploy, and then remove, 50 customized virtual machines each week. 30 of the virtual machines run Windows Server 2016 and 20 of the virtual machines run Ubuntu Linux. You need to recommend which Azure service will minimize the administrative effort required to deploy and remove the virtual machines. What should you recommend? A. Azure Virtual Machine Scale Sets. B. Microsoft Managed Desktop. C. Azure DevTest Labs. D. Azure Reserved Virtual Machine, VM, instances. Answer. C. Thanks. Subscribe Seek Exams for more free exams.